رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه الطاهرين ما دام ما في السماوات والأرضين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم إنا نسألك علما ينفعنا وارفعنا. اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا ورزقا واسعا وعملا متقبلا وشفاء من كل داء. وبعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. كيف حالكم؟ ما شاء الله ما شاء الله. الحمد لله. We are indeed fortunate in that Allah affords us the opportunity to come together on a Sunday and to gather in a house of the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to study the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, particularly post Ramadan, where most people are struggling with that continuum after Ramadan to continue with the benefits of the month of Ramadan. You and I are afforded the opportunity whereby our class facilitates for that continuum, with that relationship that we've established as of the beginning of the year with Quran, culminated in the month of Ramadan, and now inshallah there will be some form of continuity in that particular regard. Alhamdulillah. So it is indeed a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we are afforded this opportunity to come together to يَتْلُونَ كِتَابَ اللَّهِ وَيَتَدَارَسُونَهُ فِي مَا بَيْنَهُم, that they come together to read the book of Allah and to study the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we thank Allah for this blessing, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to increase us in this blessing, inshallah. Where do we start from? We completed verse number 10? Tamam, alhamdulillah. Verse number 10, as a reminder, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ أَخَوَيْكُمْ وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ, is really the crux of this particular chapter, brotherhood and sisterhood. And we had read through a number of narrations that talk about brotherhood and sisterhood. To remind myself and yourself, this narration, and I think we should not only, it is one of those things that will change our communities, it will change our families. We discussed the hadith that talks about haqqul muslimi ala al-muslimi khamsun, the right of one Muslim upon the next Muslim are 5 things. And I think it's important for us to by heart this and to practice upon it. If we want to change our families, we want to change our communities, this is what we require. These are the building blocks. What are those? The rights. And according to Imam Bukhari, he said that these are necessary rights. I'm reminded about this because it's something very important. Number 1 is raddu salam. A person greets you, it is necessary, compulsory to you, for you to respond to that greeting, raddu salam. Number 2 is tashmitul atish. A person sneezes and says Alhamdulillah. According to this narration, it is necessary that you say Yarhamukallah, may Allah have mercy upon you. Ijabatu da'wah. Somebody invites you. So we think very little of an invitation. If it ties in with our weekly, monthly schedule, we will respond, otherwise not. No, it is necessary when somebody invites you that you must respond. Think about brotherhood and sisterhood. So you, today for example, after class, you may be exhausted, but your sister invited you for Sunday lunch. There is no reason for you not to respond, and then it is necessary for you to go. Think about the benefits. Family ties. It may be difficult, it may be challenging. You're going to see people that you may not want to see, or whatever the case may be. The Sharia tells you, go. It is necessary to establish that bonds. So there we have 3. What's the other? Ittiba'ul janaiz. A janaza. You must follow that particular janaza. Some say fard kifaya, others would say in this particular regard fardu ain. And the last one, iyadatul marid, to go visit the sick. Somebody becomes sick. Even on fard kifaya, sometimes we go to hospital and then you find that you're the only visitor. Before, it's to be a hallmark, you go to Somerset, you go to Grooteskeer, the mosque is full of kufiyas and dukis, Muslim people visiting there. Nowadays you come to a sick person, you may be the only person there. If nobody's there and you consider it to be a fard kifaya, it means now that everybody, the entire Muslim community, family and otherwise, are held responsible because not a single person came to visit that sick person. So we talk about building the community. Surah Al-Hujurat is about building the Muslim community, and the crux of the surah is for us to understand that innamal mu'minuna ikhwa, that we are brothers and sisters, not brothers and sisters just very theoretically, practically. And these 5 things really is the manifestation of what our brotherhood and sisterhood should be like. May Allah grant us the tawfiq. Ameen. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues, and He mentions that we are brothers and sisters. There are certain things now, we spoke about brotherhood and sisterhood. There are certain things that undermine our unity, undermine our brotherhood, and undermine our sisterhood. And here Allah talks about a very important phenomenon, if you allow me to discuss it first. And that is when we undermine one another, we have a bad thought about one another, we look down upon one another. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses. And there's a unique narration in terms of the wording of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What does he say? He says, "Kafa bil mar'i sharran ay yahqira akhahu al-muslim." Kafa bil mar'i, it is sufficient for a person bisharri, of his portion of evil. In other words, it is sufficient for a person to be labeled as a bad person. These are the words of the Prophet ﷺ. It's sufficient for a person to be labeled as a bad person. Now you and I, we don't want that label of a bad person. Shar really means evil. And what is sufficient? أَن يَحْقِرَ أَخَاهُ الْمُسْلِمِ, that a person looks down on his Muslim brother. It's sufficient for you and I to be labeled as bad people if we have this particular quality. What is that quality? Looking down on our next Muslim brother. Very important. And for us, to a certain degree, you and I, as students of Deen, we are more prone to it. We are more prone to it because we are religious. What is, they say, we have 4 conditions, and the conditions are determined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there's a response to every condition. The first condition is, I'm just going to focus on the one condition. The one condition is you find yourself in a state of obedience. So what is the response? If you find yourself in a state of obedience right now, you are obeying the command of Allah. Allah says you must read the Quran, you must understand, you must practice upon the Quran. So you find yourself in a state of obedience. What is the response? The response should be that of gratitude. Thank you, Allah, for enabling me to be in a state of obedience. What is the negative of obedience? Sidi Ahmad Zarruq, he says that the negative of obedience is not in its essence, because obedience in its essence cannot be bad, but what it leads to. So what does obedience leads to? It leads to self-righteousness. You start thinking that you are better than the next person, and that is the evil of obedience. So one shouldn't look down upon another person, and you and I, we are prone to it. Why? Because we consider ourselves as obedient, as righteous, and the negative of righteousness, it becomes self-righteous, and you start looking down on everybody else. Actually, you know what starts happening? You develop a superlative sense of piety. You studying Quran, you're walking Quran already. You are the embodiment of piety. Revelation in its human form. And so we must steer clear of this. May Allah protect us and save us. We're now in the Hajj season. And if you've gone for Umrah and you've gone for Hajj, there's a clip going around which I take great exception to, but just for us to make it as a point of reference. There was a lady, and the lady is in ihram. Now you know the ihram garb of a lady is a normal apparel. She just makes an intention. But this lady had two like cloths, the bottom cloth and the top cloth. Bottom cloth and the top cloth. So is it right or wrong? It's wrong. Right? But do you and I look down on that person? Do we look down on the person? No, we don't look down on the person. So rectify the person, do what is right, but never look down. So the reason why I mention that example is in certain instances you witness a lot of wrong, and it's wrong. And particularly in the Hajj season. Imam Nawawi rahimahullah tells you beforehand, you're going to witness a lot of wrong. Put the wrong right, but don't look down on the person. Some scholars say, so much so, that before that person has fell in your estimation, you have already fallen in the estimation of Allah. So it's very sensitive in terms of looking down on a person. Rectifying the wrong and considering the wrong to be wrong, that's on its place, and you do your best. What does it say? Man ra'a minkum munkaran falyughayyiru biyadi. If you see something wrong, change it with your hand. If you can't, then speak out against it. If you can't, then at least feel it's wrong in your heart. But that feeling shouldn't lead you to look down on the next person, to ridicule the next person. Take the person by the hand, guide the person, show the person that you were exposed to classes, Hajj classes you were attending for decades. That person didn't attend a single Hajj class. What must you say? Alhamdulillah, Allah's granted me this ability. Allah hasn't granted you that. The Prophet taught us a dua that you must read when you see somebody doing wrong. You must know it's wrong. Alhamdulillah alladhi faddalani ala kathirin mimman khalaqa tafdila. All praise are due to Allah who has given me preference over many of His creation. And the end, I don't remember the Arabic wording, it reads, and He did not test me in the way that He tested you. See? Allah granted me the knowledge, so I am rightly guided. So this is the favor of Allah. If Allah wanted to, Allah could deprive you of that knowledge and you'd be the same boat like the other person. So if we are in obedience, the response is gratitude to Allah. The response should not be that we look down on other people. May Allah grant us the understanding. This is very important, very important. So there's many narrations about, in terms of a person, a believer is who? Man sarrat wa hasanatuhu wa sa'atu sayyi'atu. A believer, when you do good things, you feel happy about yourself. That's why this, when you sin, they say, punishment enough of a sin is the fact that you have to live with that sin. You do something, and then you constantly remind yourself about what you did. That is torture in itself. Now, like the opposite of it, if you do something good, naturally you feel very happy about it. So, Ramadan has gone, you've, mashallah, worshipped Allah, fasted and in 11 the nights. But what happens now, that causes you happiness. But it mustn't cause you happiness to a degree that you start looking down on the person who only pitched up on Eid day. So now what you're doing, you're looking down on that person. And that's a negative of religiosity, self-righteousness. You consider yourself to be better than others. Everybody with me? And then also, let's say that the planes are level and this is genuinely a bad person. So you on one level, the person is on a lower level. Genuinely like that. And we have an example in Islamic history, a unique example. And that is the example which the scholars mention in this particular verse. Is the example of whom? Umar radiallahu anh, one of the staunch opponents to the Prophet ﷺ and the cause of Islam. And what did he become afterwards? He became of the best Ashra al-Mubashara, those who have been given glad tidings about entry into paradise. So if a Muslim person looked down on Umar in the initial stages, what does he or she have to say for himself or herself now that Umar becomes the second Khalif? So the entire instruction here packed out, Allah packs it out considerably, is that no one should look down upon the other. May Allah grant us the understanding. Now, I remember now listening to a clip of one of the scholars, he says that you come into this gathering, now you walk out, and what happens now is you come past and maybe friends of yours, they may be driving past in a car and the music is blaring, right or wrong? Wrong. But what is your attitude? What is your response? Astaghfirullah. Tawbah, tawbah, tawbah. No. What is wrong, you must have a dislike for what is wrong. Number one. Number two is you must say, Alhamdulillah alladhi faddalani ala kathiri mimman khalaqa tafdila. Wa faddalani mimma ibtalaka bih. Allah saved me from that which He tested you with, He didn't test me with. Oh Allah, guide them as You have guided me. Oh Allah, show them the right way as You have shown me the right way. That is the attitude. Our scholars even say, must you stay away from bad company? Must you stay away from bad company? Yes. Allah tells you about that all the time. You are the company that you keep. But why do you stay away from bad company? Because they're bad, or you can't withstand that company? Because you can't withstand that company. If you find yourself in that company, you're going to be too weak to hold on to it. That's why. Not because they're bad, because when you consider them bad, what do you think about yourself? That you're better? You with me? What they're doing is bad, and they bad company, yes. But your internal construct of your staying away from bad company is not because they're bad, because it makes you good. You must tell yourself, look here, I won't be able to handle that bad company. I'm going to become affected by it. So the weakness points to you as opposed to somebody else. And then another lesson that we learn from here is always that before we point a finger everywhere else, what these 3 fingers are pointing, or if you wanted to, just not like that, and 4 fingers point back. It's better make it like this, 4 fingers pointing back to you if you want to point 1 finger to somebody else. So they call it naqtu that, being self-critical. We are critical about everybody else. Children, parents, the children are not like they got before. The parents are not like they got before. Husbands, you don't get wives like you used to get in the old days. The wives, no. Husbands, like he can't even call himself a husband. He is to a husband. So self-critical, looking at the self. This is what it leads to. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about this. So we said a few things now, everywhere here and there, all falls under the purport of this particular verse. And what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? He says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. So, Ya ayyuha, we know that is made up of 3 words. Ya harf nida, ayyu, and ha. Ya ayyuha aw yuhu, alladhina. Alladhina is what we refer to ismul mawsul, alladhi, the one who, alladhani, two, alladhina, those who, ya ayyuha alladhina, aw those who, amanu, aw those who believe. We know that this particular address, according to some comments, I speak under correction, about 88 times in the Quran. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu. This is a very personal address. Allah is speaking to you. So Ibn Mas'ud says, when Allah addresses you, then your ears must speak. What is it that Allah requires of me? So Allah says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, aw you believe. What does Allah say? La yaskhar qawmun min qawmin. La, that la there is, that la there, look at the verb coming afterwards. Yaskhar. Yaskhar, normally it's supposed to be yaskharu. So that makes it marfu', yaskharu. Or it can be yaskhara. Or it can be yaskhar. So the fact that you have a sukoon there, la yaskhar, tells us what? That la there is la nahiya. It is a prohibition, not a negation. It's a prohibition. So what does Allah say? But He's talking about the 3rd person now. La yaskhar. Should not sakhara or sakhira yaskharu means to look down. No? La yaskhar. To belittle, to look down. Qawmun. Qawmun, a people. Min qawmin, from a people. So a group of the believers shouldn't look down on another group of believers or non-believers. La yaskhar qawmun min qawmin. One should not look down upon the other. Asa. Asa here means perhaps. In many contexts in the Quran, the word asa according to Ibn Abbas means certainty. Here I'm in a bit of I'm thinking about it now only, because the word asa here, it can mean certainly and it can mean perhaps. But the word perhaps, possibly, is the better meaning, and Allah knows best. Asa, perhaps, ay yakunu. An is an mastariyya. Kana yakunu means to be. Asa ay yakunu. Originally it was yakununa. There was a noon at the end. But because of the an at the beginning, the noon falls away. So it now reads ay yakunu. Perhaps, asa, perhaps it is that they are. Kana yakunu means to be. Kana was. Yakunu is, ayakunu, that they are. So no people should belittle and look down on another people. Perhaps ayakunu, that they are. And when Allah talks about they are, what does it mean now? What is the, innamal a'malu bil khawatim, actions are judged by the endings. All's well that ends well. So we still in the stage of existence in this earthly world. What really determines whether we are successful or not? Our beginning or our end? Our end. So what does Allah say? perhaps they will be better. أن يكونوا خيرا. خيرا is on the scale of أخير. أخير means to be better. But just for pronunciation purposes, the Arabs changed the word أخير to خير. تمام. خيرا. عسى أن يكونوا خيرا. Perhaps they will become better minhum than them. Then that was sufficient for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to say. But earlier on I alluded to the fact that sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what He does is He goes into detail. So Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, right? That particular address, does it include male folk and women folk? It includes everybody. But now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifically now He mentions wala nisa'un. So Allah says men folk, as a male person you shouldn't look down on another male person, right? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you look by way of analogy, if this applies to males, it applies to females as well. But Allah doesn't leave it to analogy. He wants to explicitly say at the same time, wala nisa'un. And neither, nisa'un is the plural of the word imra'atun. It's a broken plural, which the plural's got nothing to do with the singular. You have such plurals in Quran, in Arabic, and one of the most stark examples is the one of imra'atun and nisa. So nisa is the plural of the word imra'atun. Wala nisa'un, and neither women folk min nisa'in, from women folk. And for exactly the same reason, asa, perhaps ayyakunna, that they will be, those women folk that you and I perhaps look down upon, khayran minhunna, can be better minhunna than themselves. Right? So don't look down on a person, perhaps they are better than you. Now, asa ayyakunna khayran minhun. So this is very, very important, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. You know, in Urdu they say like nazuk. I don't know if you heard the term before, nazuk. Nazuk masla hai. Nazuk. Anybody speak Urdu? Nazuk. Nazuk means like, it's a very how can I say? Nazuk means thin. You know, it's a very delicate issue. You know, in terms of the way you appreciate things. You know, there's number of narrations in this regard. We mentioned a few. The Prophet ﷺ talks about rubba ash'ath aghbar, and does not encourage you to be, disheveled, no? Disheveled or disheveled, however you pronounce that word, and unkept. There's no encouragement. As believers, you should always try to be, you know, like what do they say, prim and proper, you know, like, sorry, well groomed. Well groomed. You must be well kept, well groomed, and like that. However, at the same time, the Prophet ﷺ talks about a narration, rubba ash'ath aghbar. A person is disheveled. Aghbar is, you know, like dusty. لو أقسم على الله لأبره. If he takes an oath by Allah, then Allah will see his oath to fruition. So you and I, this person who is unkept and dusty, what do? We look down upon him, right? But it mustn't be that we look down upon somebody that Allah holds this person in high esteem. So in other words, when you look at someone, you must make an issue. Perhaps the person is traveling. Perhaps, you know, he doesn't have a comb to actually comb his hair, whatever the case may be. But not to look down on the person. Right? Very, very important. And then now Allah continues. And what does Allah say? وَلَا تَلْمِزُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. وَلَا تَلْمِزُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Yeah, there's a few, the word lamaza. You know, we have Surah Al-Lumaza. وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ